Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we will talk about a simple idea with huge consequences, the belief that we should get what we deserve. We'll explore how this concept of merit shapes everything from how we praise our kids to the very structure of our society.
Okay, so we're going on quite an intellectual journey today. We're going to start in the classroom, looking at the psychology of praise. From there, we'll scale up to the politics of meritocracy and even the philosophy of luck. And we'll wrap it all up by asking what this all means for building a better, more unified society. So yeah, let's just get right into it.
So let's kick things off with a question you've probably thought about. Whether you're a parent, a teacher, or maybe you just remember it from when you were a kid. It seems like a small thing, but trust me, the implications are enormous.
It really all begins with this simple choice of words. Now, on the surface, both of these seem pretty positive, right? I mean, you're encouraging a child. What could be wrong with that? But the psychological groundwork they lay is fundamentally different. It can actually set a child on one of two very different paths when they inevitably run into a problem they can't solve right away. So, what we've got here are two types of praise that create completely different mindsets. On one side, you have ability praise, telling someone you're smart. This focuses on something innate, a quality a person just is. This can lead to what's called a fixed mindset, the belief that intelligence is the static thing you either have or you don't. But on the other side, praising effort, saying you worked hard, that focuses on a process, on something someone did. This encourages a growth mindset, the belief that you can develop your abilities through practice.
And look, this isn't just a theory. A study with fifth graders showed some pretty startling results. After an initial success, the kids were given a task that was designed for them to fail. And just look at this top row here. The kids who were praised for their ability, they were way more likely to blame other factors for their failure. They also started self-handicapping, making excuses ahead of time, like saying they weren't feeling well, basically to protect their ego. And the result? They showed less improvement on the next try. Now compare that to the kids praised for effort. They blamed a lack of effort, and they actually improved, just like the kids who got no praise at all.
So the huge takeaway here is that praising an innate ability can actually cause kids to protect their self-image by making excuses or even just giving up because failure feels like a final judgment on who they are. Now let's zoom out from this one kid and see how this exact same logic plays out across our entire society. Yeah, this is where a personal mindset really scales up and becomes a huge social and political belief system. The very same logic we apply to a child, that their success is a reflection of their innate worth, is exactly what we use to explain wealth and poverty across our whole society. And it's all built around this one really powerful idea: meritocracy. In theory, it sounds like the ultimate form of fairness, right? Your success isn't decided by who your parents are, but by your own talent and hard work. It promises this level playing field where anyone can rise to the top. It's a really attractive story. But here's the paradox. Research has found this surprising chain reaction. When people really truly believe they live in a meritocracy, it actually changes their political views. As you can see, that belief gives them a greater sense of personal control, and that leads to a really fascinating outcome. They become less supportive of policies that are designed to reduce inequality, things like progressive taxation.
And this really illustrates the core paradox. The more we believe that success is earned, the less we feel responsible for helping those who are struggling, because we just assume their failure must also be earned. The philosopher Michael Sandel nails this when he says, meritocracy creates the arrogance of the winners and the humiliation of the losers. It's a system that can really breed resentment and division.
This creates a really deep moral divide. So how do we think about fairness in a way that actually accounts for all the things we can't control? Well, this is where philosophy offers some pretty powerful tools to help us think it through.
One really powerful response is a concept that directly challenges that simple meritocratic story. It's called luck egalitarianism, and the core idea is pretty straightforward. Justice demands that we fix inequalities that come from pure chance, from bad luck, but not necessarily the inequalities that come from our own choices. The goal is to level the playing field, but only for the things that are out of our hands. So this theory tries to draw a really clean line between two kinds of luck. On one side, you've got brute luck. This is like the cosmic lottery. It's the family you're born into, your genetics, the country you happen to be born in. On the other side, you've got option luck, which is the result of a deliberate gamble. If you bet all your savings on a risky stock and you lose it all, that's kind of on you. Lucky egalitarians argue that a just society should try to compensate for bad brute luck, but not necessarily bad option luck. So that brings up a really interesting question. What if we could design a society from the ground up without knowing if we were going to benefit from good luck or suffer from bad luck? This question leads us to one of the most famous thought experiments in all of modern political philosophy.
This brilliant thought experiment comes from the philosopher John Rawls. He asks us to imagine ourselves in what he calls the original position, standing behind a veil of ignorance. From here, you get to decide the basic rules of society, but there's one massive catch. You have absolutely no idea who you're going to be in that society.
Okay, so picture it. You're behind this veil. You don't know if you'll be rich or poor, healthy or sick, part of a majority group or a minority group. Since you can't rig the rules to favor yourself, you have to think about what would be fair for everybody. What kind of rules would you create to make sure society is just, no matter where you end up?
Rawls argued that from this position, we would all agree on two key principles. First, we'd make sure everyone has the same basic liberties. But the really crucial part is what he called the difference principle. This says that social and economic inequalities are only okay if they work to the benefit of the least advantaged people in society. So a doctor earning more than a cashier is only fair if that system ultimately leads to better health care for everyone, including that cashier. The key point here is that behind the veil, we design a system to protect the most vulnerable people. Because, hey, that could end up being us. And this idea is a direct challenge to a pure meritocracy, where the winners just take everything. Which brings us to our final section. How can we rethink success itself?
Okay, let's bring this all home. If our talents, and maybe even our ability to work hard, are influenced by the luck of our genes and our environment, then success isn't entirely our own doing, and failure isn't entirely our own fault. And that forces us to ask a really fundamental question. What do we actually owe one another?
Thinkers like Michael Sandel suggest this means we need some pretty radical new ideas. For instance, what if for super competitive college admissions, we just treated merit as a threshold? Anyone who meets that high bar is qualified, and then the final spots are given out through a lottery. This would make the role of luck totally explicit. We could also shift our focus to what he calls contributive justice, building a society where everyone feels like their work is a valued contribution to the common good, not just the people with the most fancy credentials.
Ultimately, the whole goal here is to move away from a society that just sorts people into winners and losers, and move towards one that recognizes how much we all depend on each other. As Sandel puts it, learning to be a plumber should be seen as a valuable contribution, not as some kind of consolation prize. It's all about dismantling this hierarchy of esteem that devalues so much of the essential work in our society. And this leaves us with a final, really challenging question to chew on. Just imagine a world where our social respect was based not on the credentials we collect, but on our tangible contributions to the well-being of others. What would have to change? And maybe more importantly, how could we start building that kind of world today? Thanks for watching my video. If you liked the video and learned something from it and want to share your opinion or your experience, you can comment down below and I would love to see your thoughts and experiences. Subscribe to my channel and turn on the notification bell to get notified when I upload more videos like that. Have a good day. Bye.